So the footage you're watching now was filmed at the first round of the InKart Championship at Daytona Sandown. The InKart Championship was my first ever attempt at an outdoor championship. I've been karting for a year. We're karting seriously for about a year now. I had karted a bit before. I'd done a few like races at stag do's and stuff, and I'd always gotten pretty well. I'd won those, and I kind of I always wanted to take karting a bit more seriously. And so when we found this track at Daytona Sandown, which is in Esher, quite near me, and it had these faster karts, it was a good opportunity, particularly during the tiered system with the lockdowns. It was one of the first things that opened up was outdoor karting. So because I didn't have access, my regular sport is boxing, and I didn't have access to my gym, so karting became a pretty serious hobby for me over the last year, and I've been going quite a lot. And I entered into when the indoor tracks opened again last year, I entered into the British Indoor Karting Championship, and that went very well. I got to the regional finals of that at heavyweight. But when I saw they had an InKart Championship at Daytona Sandown, I was very excited to try that as an outdoor championship and see how I got on. But having signed up, I found found out that the format was a little bit different. With the British InKart Indoor Championship that I'd done last year, they had it was done by weight divisions. They had five different weight divisions. I think it was 5. Whereas with this, it was just 2 weight divisions: lightweight and heavyweight. And all the karts would be on track at the same time. All the karters, whether you're light or heavy. And the results would be separated out for the podiums. But in terms of the actual points for the championship, it would be where you were on track. So you were actively racing against. If you were a heavyweight, you were actually racing against lightweights, and lightweights are racing against heavyweights. Which is quite different to the British Indoor Championship. They also had random grids for the first 2 heats, and your results in the first 2 heats would determine where you qualified for the grid in the final race. So it was all the final one. The final race was the one where you scored the most points. That was the most important one. So the footage here is just the practice session before the first heat, and I think we're about to So this is the start of the first race. And I think I was a little bit unlucky here because the person in front, I think, was maybe a little bit less experienced. They were a little bit slow off the line, which cost me a place at the start. It's always quite hard as a heavier driver to make a decent getaway with the lighter drivers. I find this in open races, they often get past you at the start. And I kind of tried to go up the inside here, didn't really pull it off, and then got kind of pushed out wide going into this corner here, which cost me a couple of places. Here is it's quite a good example of what it can be like as a heavier guy to race lighter drivers. This guy just uses his straight line speed to get past me, and it's as a heavier guy sometimes on those straights it really is difficult to compete against those lighter guys. So I think he gets past me fairly easily here. So this here is the start of the second heat, and this is where things started to go wrong for me a bit. They started the heat kind of unexpectedly. I think a lot of us were they didn't say visors down or anything like that. They just started the heat. So you can see I think it took a few people off guard, and there were a few crashes at the first corner. And then unfortunately I was involved in an incident at one of the opening corners as well, where a car in front of me braked suddenly. So I had to take evasive action. And then the car behind hit me quite hard. And you can hear my yelps of pain. It was actually, I was hit there in sparring and boxing the week before, so I kind of had an existing injury, and unfortunately I did get hit in the same place, which is unfortunate. It was actually quite painful, but at this point I was a bit worried that they were gonna try and pull me out, and the championship entry is quite expensive, so I was very keen to continue. And it was just a bit of I was kind of winded, and it was just a shame that it hit me in the same place that I'd taken an injury in boxing the previous week. So, but I was okay. I kind of shook it off. It was a little bit of pain the next day, but other than that, it was fine. And I kind of think, 30 carts is a lot to have on the track at a time with everyone racing aggressively, but it is what it is. So I think the red race was actually red flagged for a while at this point. So we were kind of held here for a while.
Any pain now, or no, sure? You might find when you're driving around, as you put pressure on it, it hurts. It does go into the pit lane, okay?
Now, because there was quite a big delay, because the first random grid I started in 3rd place, which meant I started in 27th in the second random grid, which meant that to get into scoring position for points, I had to be in the top 10. Now, starting 27th, I really did need the laps to try and get into that scoring place, but because the race was red flagged for a long while and there was a big delay, I only actually ended up with 4 laps, and I think I managed to get up to about 21st place, but obviously I was well out of a scoring position. And I think coming up there's a cart facing the wrong way out of one of these corners, but I think we do all manage to avoid him. But it was because it was such a crowded track, there were quite kind of a few incidences like that. Things to watch out for. Because it can be really hard when everyone's kind of vying for position. It can be really, really easy to get yourself in a tangle and lose places. So it's always I was always sort of looking to really avoid that. I lost a place here. A faster Carter went up the inside, and he was very good. I saw him in the final, kind of overtaking people and stuff. Obviously, I had very good pace and him very, very smooth. But luckily, I was able to make up a few places. But like I said, I didn't really in just 4 laps have time to get into a kind of scoring position. But I think I did manage a few overtakes, and obviously there were some spins and stuff as well, which helped a little bit. I think I finished like 21st or 22nd in this heat. But yeah, it was difficult just having only those few laps to try and sort of make up as many places as possible. Because I did kind of feel, as the race went on, I felt settled into my pace a lot, and was starting to catch a big group of carts in front. So it was frustrating. It was frustrating not having more time, but it's just bad luck really. That was it was a bad crash at the beginning, and it could have easily gone another way, but. And so this was the final, and I think I started somewhere about 18th, and a miracle of miracles, I actually did manage to get a good start. I think I picked an outside line, and then I managed to get a little bit lucky going around the outside of some people and made up quite a few places. And the interesting thing with this was because obviously there wasn't that many heavy drivers. I was kind of having made up a few places at the start. I was kind of in the battle, I believe, for a podium, because I think the guy that came third overall in the heavyweights finished about 13th, and I must have been around there, sort of 13th, 14th, 15th position, because I'd started 18th and made up a few places at the start, so I kind of felt that I was in contention, but unfortunately more bad luck did befall me, so you'll see that in coming up quite soon. So unfortunately you're about to see me collide with the chap in grey, and I tried to go for a move up the inside, and he turns in, and I do try and avoid him, but unfortunately we did hit. I later found out that I actually got a penalty for that. That cost me a place. I definitely didn't do it deliberately. I've never had any kind of penalty before in my year of karting. And I always do try and race really fairly, so I was a little bit miffed about that, but it's just one of those things. I can see why, from maybe the marshal's point of view, it looked like I made contact and then he span out. But it didn't matter anyway in the end, because I unfortunately had a kart failure, and that's the sort of the frustrating thing with this format, is that the whole day and the first two races were just really to set the grid for this race, which is the big scoring race, and so it kind of leaves you open that if you do have bad luck in that final race, then you can end up with no points or not very many points, and your day's ruined, which is unfortunately what happened to me. My kart had felt very good all day. I was very, very happy with my kart. Felt really, really powerful, because the karts can be a little bit mixed at Daytona. You can be a bit unlucky, but I was going round. I felt like it was all going very well, and then like I say, I knew I was in contention for a podium, and then as I went round this corner and then came out of the corner out of it, my throttle died for a second, and it's just for a second. You see me put my head down and kind of try and get the car going, isn't it? Just for a second, but of course it let someone pass me. It then kicked back in, but someone went past me, and I could immediately see it was a heavier driver, which was not ideal, because, as I said before, I was trying to battle for a podium, and then I'd lost a place to a guy that was clearly a heavier driver. So that was very, very frustrating. But then the kart seemed to be working, but I was worried. And I think as I get round this corner, because like I said, the lightweights always pull away from me a lot on the straights, but this chap was a heavyweight, and I could see him flying away from me on the straight, which should have raised alarm bells really, because it meant that something was probably wrong with my kart. But yeah, unfortunately, in a couple of corners later, I came out of the corner, and it made a funny noise and then died completely. The throttle completely cut out, and I was left going round, sort of nursing a very wounded kart back to the pits, very, very slowly, which was really, really frustrating, because I knew then my kind of race was over, and the day was ruined points wise, I suppose. Foolishly here, having gone round at a snail's pace, I tried to sort of sillily, I did look, but then I tried to cut across, at about 5 miles an hour, so bumped into someone. Yeah, that was my fault. I shouldn't have pulled across the track at that speed. But of course everyone went flying past, really, really frustrating. Made my way back to the pits for a new kart, and that's when I found out I'd actually been given a penalty as well for that earlier incident with the chap in grey. So really, really frustrating day, really.
Also, mate, you were given a penalty board for an ABC round turn 8, okay? Knocking someone out. My marshal saw it, okay? Okay, sorry. Sorry, we'll get a card change for you. Let it know, stay in your go-kart. Do you want to stand up, please?
Unfortunately, the new kart they gave me wasn't as good as the original kart I had before the failure. Obviously, that was a very powerful kart. It felt good. This one had quite a light throttle, and looking at my times afterwards, I had quite a few laps, but my best time was about 1.5 seconds what I'd done in the other kart. The throttle felt very light, very kind of spongy, but I still enjoyed. I mean, I was 2 laps behind at this point, but I still enjoyed what was left of the race. I kind of caught up with some people, managed some overtakes and stuff, and tried to just kind of enjoy it. But it was obviously very frustrating, because I did end up coming last. I'd spent by the time I came out of the pits, I was 2 laps behind everyone. So from a points perspective, it was my day ruined. So not the best start for my first ever outdoor championship. And I was a little bit frustrated, because I spoke to some people afterwards, and you get chatting to people, and I found that 3 other people's karts had failed in the final, and I did see one other person's kart fail in the first round. And like I said, it is an expensive championship to enter, They believe the entry cost is about £90 per round. So I did think that, it's a little bit more than bad luck when that many carts fail, and so I kind of think Daytona maybe. I don't know if it's a maintenance problem or whatever, but I do feel that's on them a little bit. So I'm very, very grateful that they're open, and I do think Daytona, Sandown, Milton Keynes, they're really great tracks, great organisations. But that is frustrating when you've got a championship like that and you've paid and you're competitive and excited, and that many people, that many carts fail. I think that shouldn't really happen, really. So I could see here though I was catching someone up. And obviously I'm 2 laps behind, so I wasn't too sure whether I should overtake. But then I figured that I did have the pace on him, and so I thought I would go for the overtake. So he's just defending quite well, but I think maybe not taking the best lines to places. So I was able to get alongside him and go up the inside to take the position. But ultimately, I was last in the point standing. So hopefully I get a bit of better luck for the next round, which is this weekend coming up. So hopefully it goes a little bit better. But I did enjoy it nonetheless. So yeah.